I'm so proud of so many parts of Canyon Springs. But as I was putting together this message and thinking about this 20th anniversary, there's one area that I feel like we've lost vision for. I don't blame anybody but myself. But I feel in some ways like we've lost our first love. Remind me of some verses that are in Revelation. It goes like this, Revelation 2, verse 2. And the Apostle John is writing to this church in Ephesus, and he says, I know your deeds, your hard work, your perseverance. I know you can't tolerate wicked people. You have tested those who claim to be apostles but are not. You've found them false. You've persevered. You've endured hardships for my name. You have not grown weary, yet I hold this against you. You've forsaken the love you had at first. Consider how far you've fallen. Repent and do the things you did at first. When we started Canyon Springs, we started for one purpose. This was at the top, that we would reach our neighbors, that we'd reach people on soccer fields and in business parks and at your work, and that neighbor down the street or that person in your family that doesn't know Jesus. That's why we exist. That has boiled down into 4 words over the years. It's about the one. You can't find peace and purpose until you are in relationship with the one. That Jesus can give you that peace, and he can give you that purpose, and he can help you become the person that you always wanted to be. Once you're in that relationship with the one, then be in the relationship with other ones. Join a small group, start to serve, challenge each other. But it's not done at that spot. Then it's about reaching the next one, caring for the next one, praying for the next one. There was a time at Canyon Springs, and it's not too long ago, that we used to just say this all the time. Who's your one? Who's your one? Who are you praying for? Who's your one? And I don't know, maybe with the distraction of missions and the podcast and all this cool other stuff that's going on, we've stopped saying those things. The reason why we open up doors on a Sunday morning is not just so that you can grow deeper, but that you can reach that next one. And I just, this last August, I'm thinking about the 20 years. And I don't have this moment very often where I feel like God is speaking directly to me. I mean, this happens, but it's rare. And I was driving with my daughter, and she caught me. She said, Dad, what are you thinking about? I said, you're right. I'm thinking about something. I'm not thinking about music. For one, you're playing Justin Bieber, okay? So let's just say that. And here's what I feel like God placed on my heart. It's about the one. And the one is here at 8:30 and 10:30 every Sunday. And we've just kind of grown as a church to be kind of very culturally San Diego, and whenever you show up is fine. And I will never, ever look down on anybody when they show up. And people throughout the years has said things like this to me, like, man, we just show up for the message. And in the back of my mind, I would think, well, that's kind of cool. You're showing up for me, and I'd feel good about that. And yet the one, Jesus Christ, wants to meet with you at 8:30 and 10:30 every Sunday. And I realize some people don't get the singing stuff, right? I mean, it's pretty common. And so my challenge to you is to get the singing stuff. To not miss that opportunity to meet with the one who can change your life. And I've had to learn it. Quite honestly, that wasn't a priority to me when we started. Speaking was a priority because that's what I knew. And God He has broken my heart and shown me that as I worship, I draw close to Him. And sometimes I worship by singing, and sometimes I'll be sitting up front and I'll be reading, but I have to be here when it starts because I know Jesus is here when it starts. And I want to challenge you. And maybe you're not up to that challenge. That's fine. You can come whenever you want. I love you. but learn it. And I think you can do it. I mean, if you showed up at a Journey concert, you'd sing Don't Stop Believin'. So we've changed a couple of things around here. You're not going to have any more caddies. You don't have to do the walk of shame anymore with the caddy when you're in the front rows. Because I want that to be worship time. I don't want anything to take away from that worship time. We are no longer passing an offering bucket. That's not going to happen anymore. If you look in the back, there are little places where you can give your money. And if you really commit, if you really want to commit to that, do that online. That way you don't have to worry about it on Sunday mornings. But I don't want that to interrupt from the worship anymore. We're going to drop the lights when it hits 8:30 and 10:30, which means you're going to have to, we're trying to figure out the lights. Paul is trying to figure out the lights like you wouldn't believe. Last year, the school decided to save some money by putting in lights that cannot be dimmable. And so since that point, it's either like nothing or everything. It's either like that you can't see or McDonald's. It's really hard to worship when it looks like McDonald's. Because it feels like an intimate moment. So we're going to drop those lights. We're going to try to we're working to get some dimmable lights so that you'll have some light. And we're putting lights on the side. But just understand that that's why we're doing that. Another thing that we're going to do is in the back, like we build a sound system every Sunday. Sometimes it works for you, sometimes it doesn't. There are earplugs in the back if it hurts your ears, because that happens. And I've been around lots of churches, really cool churches put earplugs in the back, okay? So I also want to challenge you on your e-bulletin. If you click on, there's a Spotify playlist. I don't know if you're on Spotify. It's a free app that you put on your phone. Click on that Spotify playlist, and all the songs that we play on Sunday will play for you. Take time during the week so that you know these songs, so that you can learn them, and God can start speaking to you during them. It's funny, you guys walked with me through our adoption. It's a 4-year process. And I would show up to church, and there would be a song about how the orphans find a home. And it would break me every week. And God would speak to me, and he would encourage me through that difficult time. And so I'm going to challenge you to try to make that a priority. Let me also say this. The ones here at 8:30, your one might be here at 8:30 and 10:30 too. Because when new people show up, they show up on time. And what happens if you pray for somebody over and over and over and over, and yet they show up to church and the first 10 minutes are super awkward because nobody's in the room? How will you feel? And your one might not be there, but somebody else's one might be there. Now here's one last commitment that I've made. And I have held this ever since we started this church. I have never, ever once looked down my nose at any person who walked in, no matter what time they walked in. I'm always happy to see you. I don't want any of you to ever criticize anybody for the time that they show up. We are not that church. We will never be that church. Because sometimes iPhones get set to silent. And sometimes, bottles explode in the car, and sometimes you just can't make it. And if it's just hard for you to be there on time, just be there, because Jesus can still meet you. We're never going to be that church. But I want to challenge you to meet the one here. Because, man, I've seen him. And I thought he changed my life a lot before I came here, but man, he's changed it a lot since. And I need him. So, some of you know that we lost a charter member of Canyon Springs a couple of weeks ago. I lost my mom. And my mom, for years and years and years and years, would come down to Canyon Springs. And she'd always sit right over here. And she'd always laugh way too much. I mean, for me, it was great. It's like having a human laugh track with my mom here at Canyon Springs. Actually, for one of her birthdays, we had old CDs. Like, we don't print CDs anymore because it's all online, but I had, like hundreds of CDs of messages, and I gave her this giant stack. Now, if I gave that to most of you, that would be considered a gag gift, but my mom listened to every one of those. In fact, she would listen to them in her home that she lived in daily. Do I have a picture of my mom? There she is. Could she look more proud? She would always introduce you. This is my son, the preacher. Nobody else in the world introduces me like that, but that's how my mom introduced me. Let me tell you something. My mom died, and there were all kinds of mixed emotions because I didn't have a great childhood growing up. It was one weekend after my mom died that I had my very first positive memory of my childhood. My sister called. She reminded me of something Mom used to do. But that doesn't mean I don't have positive memories of my mom. My mom met Jesus, and she became very generous, and she would hand flowers to people. If you knew my mom, she would put a flower on your doorstep. If you knew my mom, she'd bake you a pie. Until, she started to, like one pie she baked, she started to lose it. The wheels started to come out. She forgot the sugar, so she put it on top. I also remember she made a cake one time, and we went to cut it. The spoon was in it. So she stopped making pies. But my dad was abusive, and my mom didn't know how to protect us, and that was my life growing up. And then one day, my oldest sister invited my dad to go to church. And at that church, he found Jesus. And then there was another day that my sister invited my mom to go to a different church. And my mom found Jesus. And then my sisters found Jesus. And 2 years later, I went to a concert. And you know where that concert was? It was at a church. And Jesus changed my life. Let's not forget why we're here. Let's not forget why God put us here 20 years ago. We always said we're not here to drag people from other churches. We're here to win people that don't know Jesus. Let's make sure we are always about that. And the one is here at 8:30 and 10:30, and your one might be here too. Let's see what God does in this next year.